Indeed, Old Baylor is marching, and has done so for more than 160 years. Since 1845, she has paraded steadily, from quaint but culturally refined Old Independence to modern-day Belton, from 24 to over 2,700 students, from an endowment of less than $10,000 to one of over $60 million, from one graduate in the first 10 years to over 500 graduates each year, from one dilapidated building to a campus filled with new or updated, fully equipped buildings. To understand the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor today, it is necessary to look back at the path she has taken, the ups and downs encountered, and the events that have shaped her. In 1839, the Republic of Texas was only 3 years old. Indians, Mexicans, and Americans were on the warpath. It was not unusual to hear about stolen horses, children being carried off, or citizens being scalped and killed. In the midst of this turmoil, a meeting was held at Washington on the Brazos to formulate a plan for missions in Texas, including Christian education. Robert Emmett Bledsoe Baylor, a lawyer and preacher from Kentucky, joined missionaries James Huckins and William Tryon to plan for the first institution of Christian education in the growing republic. The charter for Baylor University, approved on February 1, 1845, called for a female department, a male department, and a preparatory department to be established in Independence, Texas. The female department was housed in an old 2-story building at the top of a hill. The male department was about a mile away on another hill. Legend says that the two were separated by a creek that students dubbed the River Jordan because it had to be crossed to get to the Promised Land. Even so, students of both genders were initially taught together, but when Rufus Burleson became president, co-ed classes ended abruptly in 1851. In 1866, primarily due to administrative disagreements, the female department secured a separate charter and was named Baylor Female College. Following the Civil War, the railroad passed Independence by. Roads deteriorated, and the river became useless for commerce. Because of the changing situation, a decision was made to move the schools. The male department was moved to Waco, joining Waco University and becoming the Baylor University we know today. Because many Baptists opposed coeducation, the decision was made to move the female department elsewhere. It became a prize fought over by Belton, Temple, and other communities. With a bid of $31,000 and 10 acres of land, Belton won out over Temple by a mere $1,000. On April 21, 1886, a cornerstone was laid in Belton for what would later be named Luther Hall. When completed, the building included classrooms, parlors, offices, living quarters for the president's family, a chapel, and dormitory rooms. It did not include indoor plumbing or electricity. The development of the cottage home system in 1893 expanded the scope of the college to a place where young women who otherwise could not afford to attend were able to live and work. The program was one of only 2 work-study programs in the country at the time, the other being at Mount Holyoke. The first cottage held 12 girls who did the housework, tended the garden, and dairy cows, as well as attending classes. The following year, for the princely sum of $100, 2 rooms were added to accommodate 8 more girls. Eventually, 12 cottages were built. Legends abound regarding how L.I. Moore, later L.I. Moore Townsend, found funding for the cottages, including selling her jewelry to pay bills and often receiving donations of exact amounts needed to pay specific debts. An unrelated legend tells about the school's colors of purple, white, and gold. When President McKinley visited Austin in 1900, the entire student body went to hear him. They noted that their banners of gold and white were too similar to those of the University of Texas, so they added purple to be distinctive. Even as the school established itself and its traditions, tragedy loomed. In the early morning hours, In a January cold spell, Luther Hall burned, or as one person said, it was cremated. The roll call of those who lived in Luther was dramatic. Not one of over 200 girls in the building had been lost or even injured. Along with the rest of the country, Baylor College for Women suffered from the Great Depression. Faced with financial disaster in 1933, the school was rescued by a large gift from Burke Burnett rancher John G. Hardin and his wife, Mary. In recognition of their gift, the school was renamed Mary Hardin-Baylor College. On February 9, 1964, tragedy struck again. Fire destroyed Wilson Administration Building and its beloved Alma Reeves Chapel. Destroyed were not only classroom space, administrative offices, and the chapel, but all academic and other records. Following the fire, then-President Dr. Arthur Tyson said, "Buildings have burned, leaders have fallen, and friends have despaired and been often misunderstood. But this college has lived and served in the past and will continue to serve in the future, because I think that God has a place in His scheme of things for it." Later in the decade, another major change came about. Throughout the college's time in Belton, young men, known as campus boys, were allowed to live in a dilapidated building known as the Shack and work on campus. They could take classes, but they could not graduate. Eventually, males attended without the work requirements, but still could not graduate. In 1968, through special arrangements, a degree was granted to the first male graduate, James P. Smith. In 1971, the college became fully coeducational. Since 1978, when the school achieved a new status and became the University of Mary Hardin-Baylor, much has changed, and much has stayed the same. Academically, we have been ranked in the U.S. News & World Report as one of America's best, and been regularly reaccredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. We have added several degrees, including a doctorate. Physically, new buildings have been added, and others renovated. We have celebrated the centennial of the school's tenure in Belton, and the sesquicentennial of our founding. Old traditions continue, and new ones have developed. The sophomore class continues to sponsor Stunt Night, which was developed to give entertainment to students unable to go home for Christmas in 1904. The Easter pageant, first performed on Easter morning in 1940, is a student-directed production bringing 5,000 spectators to campus each year. Charter Day, the celebration of our birthday, is highlighted yearly with a special chapel program, as is the robing ceremony when seniors pass the leadership mantle to the junior class. Freshman initiation and orientation have become Welcome Week with a dubbing ceremony for new students. The Miss Mary Hardin-Baylor pageant yearly recognizes the talent of our co-eds, and the more recent Crusader Nights spotlights our men. Perhaps the most noticeable changes have come in the sports arena. From the days when campus teams had no consistent name, mascot, or uniforms, we have become the mighty Crusaders and Lady Crusaders, proudly clad in purple, white, and gold. We have gone from limited intramural competition to national competition. The university competes in NCAA Division III non-scholarship athletics as a member of the American Southwest Conference. The school sponsors 12 varsity athletic programs, and since 1998, the teams have won or shared a combined total of 14 conference championships and competed at the national level in basketball, tennis, golf, and football. Yes, Old Baylor has been marching for more than 160 years through successes and change, through trials and tears, but always it has progressed toward the goal of preparing students for leadership and service through a Christ-centered learning community.